Hi, everyone. Welcome to this very new episode of This Could Have Been a Podcast. You're listening to Clarice, your host, and today I decided to record while I'm sick at home. And I wanted to talk about relationships, actually. If I look back, when I was younger, I hated men. I rejected romantic relationship and interaction. They scared me. I didn't had boyfriends till I was maybe 16. I mean, still young, but I didn't even kiss anyone. I mean, it's very common in when you're young and when you're a teenager and you start to discover all those feelings and everything to start and wonder. And I felt like around me was pretty much everywhere. But for some reason, I just thought like having a boyfriend was just disgusting and I didn't get the point basically. But ironically enough, I was already at this age, I would say like 12, 13, already reading my mom's magazines, which were like all about boys and sex and relationships and getting in shape and being the best woman and all of those stuff. And I mean, at some point, I don't even think my mom wanted to buy them anymore. I just wanted to have them every month. And I don't think it was just for the samples of like perfume and cream that was inside. It was really for the content. Um, and I remember vividly that those were the glamour ones. I really bought them every month religiously, and they're like my Bible. I remember taking their quizzes and just thinking of what type of girlfriend I would be, and would I be a likable one or would I be an annoying one? I was reading about like if plastic surgery was okay, but for men, and then like if I should start a fucking Mediterranean diet before going to my grandma, where like I had two friends in the south of France, like 2 months prior. The belief that I had to be perfect to meet someone and to be in a relationship started very early, and I just took conscious of this like very very recently actually. And I felt like the more I was interacting with some friends of mine and like telling them when I got those information on like men and life and everything, it all came down to those magazines that I was reading back then. Like the fact that I still carry some facts with me is actually insane. But I did felt like now I'm a bit more okay with expressing those things and like sharing those memories. But I felt like this was really my little secret. And like that no one would have gathered like this perfect list of how to be this perfect, lovable person, which is actually a bit sad now that I think about it. But at this moment, I remember being like, I felt like I had a glimpse into what being an adult would be like. And I really, all of a sudden, couldn't wait to be what I thought was being an adult, meaning 16, to have like a boyfriend, a cool group of girlfriends, to move to my flat at 23, really the age that I thought I would be very old and mature already, and just rocking life. Like nothing will just, everything will just flow at this point. It's really something that I do a lot is like pinning a date in my head. Like now, obviously, it's 30. And like imagining that life would just flow from that point on. And I always dreamed of being older. I think since I don't even know, like when I was 12, I was dreaming of being 16. And then when I was 16, I was dreaming of being 23. And for a long time, 23 was a big deal. Then it was 27, and now it's 30. And I just know like when I will hit 30, I will need a new goal. And I don't really know how much I'm preparing for those ages, but somehow when I have an image in my head, I kind of hit that point almost like I think subconsciously, whenever you put a goal in your head and you have this image and you have this mood board and you have all of those things, you kind of like, yeah, I mean, you're manifesting it, and all those things that I thought would happen kind of happened. And yeah, kind of reminds you to chill a bit, because as soon as you put some expectation for your future self, I think you're just moving towards it. I mean, of course, things happen. But yeah, like it was really this phase that I thought, okay, I would be like around 16, and then from then everything would move. I think wanting to play it cool and being a chill girl has always been part of who I was supposed to be. I mean, in the whole plan of my life, this is how I perceived my future self. And I think somehow this is for me an image that put me at ease, but maybe a lot of us. I think when you think of like rom coms or what was said in the magazines or anything like this, like, can you look back and think, yeah, I'm gonna be speaking my truth and say when I'm annoyed, and but like how fucked up that is, that I thought, and I for sure still have this in me, that it's not okay to be 100% yourself and to not speak up. Like the way I consumed media back in the day shows so much of who I am today. But I had this whole plan, and I knew I wanted to be cool and bringing sweet treats to events and organizing dinner and have the best flat and have the best clothes. Like I was obsessed with those movies like 13 Going 30 or The Devil's Wears Prada, just because I wanted to have it all. But and at the same time, I also was dreaming of being this very strong, independent woman that didn't need anyone but herself. And I really wanted to be successful at anything I would start, especially in my relationships. Probably because my parents split when I was young, and I thought, okay, I can do better than this. Like, what was that? Basically, super judgmental from like 13 on. Like, as if it was a simple recipe and it just take fucking goodwill to make it work. I mean, to be honest, now what I think is for sure you need goodwill, but you need fucking resilience. And I think when something doesn't work at all and there is no willingness from both sides, there's definitely a lot that you can just, move on from. It's fair to break up when like things don't work out. But anyways, that's not the point. So in many ways, like really early on, I think I put a lot of pressure on myself regarding that subject. I remember after my first breakup, I was probably like 23 or something, and I thought I was fucking old and I would die alone. And this is such a common theme. I mean, I would say among friends and everything, that like you think that every time you're going through a breakup, if there is no one else that you're kind of like fancying or something, that you're going to be alone forever and that you're already too old and you're past date and everything. And I think it's so lame that we think like this. It's really society that made us believe this. Because I would love, I mean, when a breakup is painful because you really love the person, and this is understandable that you're going to be sad, that you need to feel all those emotions, but the fear that's like, I don't like the idea that we have the fear on top of our sadness. Like you're losing someone that you love very much. You're grieving a relationship. You're grieving moments. You're grieving memories, and on top of that, you have to worry that now you want to have babies, and maybe you're too old and you're undesirable because one relationship failed and everything. And I think it sucks. Like that we have to have that on top of everything. Most of the time, we don't realize how we are actually gaining our time back. Like staying in something that doesn't fit you, doesn't suit you anymore, is actually proof that you know what you want. It's proof that there's a lot of things in your life that would go well because you're detaching from something that doesn't serve you anymore in some ways. And I think it's a shame that we're portraying like a woman's breaking up as this failure, but the pain that comes with a breakup, I think were the highlight of my life. And when I say that is because most of the painful experiences that we have comes with so much empathy and love around us that we underestimated or thought was never there. I think a lot of our suffering come from our lack of connection, but not only with our partner, ex-partner, but also with the people that are supposed to surround us. And when you're lacking a community or a strong group of friends or people you can talk to and exchange and relate to. And I just wanted to emphasize on the fact that my most beautiful friendship, I've met them either in a breakup that I had or that they had. And it's the most beautiful yet vulnerable moment. To me, those moments are so special, like how much you can find in another woman or in another friend, like how precious that is to share an experience, to say all the things you couldn't say. Like how beautiful is a breakup when you think about it, actually. It's not easy, and I don't think, and when you have to face it when your friends are not around anymore, or when you're alone is a complete different story. But the amount of beautiful friendship you can build and beautiful relationship you can build during that time is very, very precious. And sometimes it only takes one or two people to really show you that the world is not that boring, and there's actually a lot more fun and fucking crazy amazing people out there. Sometimes I also feel like maybe I'm romanticizing a bit breakups, and I think mostly because what breaks up brings you is actually communicate clear communication. I think that's when you have the most honest conversation, and I think the work within the relationship is really to achieve that kind of honesty, that kind of being true to yourself, that kind of compassion and for the other person. That made me think recently that how easy it is to get lost in a relationship. Like we're missing the point of like how sometimes we meet people and we fall in love with them because they have shown us some version of themselves that we really love to be around or really enjoyed and everything. I mean, for sure, first impression um are different. I think being able to be vulnerable and showing who you are is the best place you can be in, really. But how funny it is that sometimes we change thinking that the other person wants something from us. But in reality, I think we're all kind of seeking the person we fell in love with. And at the same time, this exact same need might end up being our suffering. Let me explain. Sometimes we get into a relationship with people and we fall for their traits. If you meet someone that is like free spirited, very flirty, very social, and you kind of fall in love with that, but then along the way you resent them for being exactly that, I think that's very unfair. And you either lie to yourself or your perception of love is kind of like capturing someone or something. Yeah, I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. I'm saying that in like how often we forget that we fall in love sometimes with exactly what makes us suffering later on. And it's very important to look for those things, knowing yourself and accepting as well that maybe you're going to have to work on yourself and some things are going to feel uncomfortable and probably painful sometimes because there is a lot of things we need to solve with ourselves. And what I mean by that is that you shouldn't stay silent that you're suffering. If you're feeling jealous or insecure or in pain, it's valid to talk about it. But I think ending up restricting your partner or blaming your suffering on them, this is the part that is unfair and that could cause a lot of pain. And yeah, I think that's something we're missing on. And it got me thinking a lot because the same goes for you. The people, your friends, your family is a bit different, but your friends, your partners, anyone that like came into your life came because they're somehow either attracted to you in some ways, or your energy was interesting to be around, or you bring something to their life, anything that is. And when you want to please or try to please someone else, or try to conform, or stay too long in your suffering, thinking about what they're bringing to you, or you're also losing the person they felt attracted to, connected to, or fell in love with. And I think that's something that is beautiful to remember. Like, who would be this person that everyone is attracted to? What would this person be doing? What would they be like? What would they attract and everything like this? I think it's so powerful to think about those things and to remember that we are our first priority when it comes to who and what we attract. And I tend to live sometimes a bit in my head and being a bit ahead of what's present right now. And I think this thought kind of helped me refocusing and being like, okay, if I had to have a friend right now, what would she be like? What would she be doing? Or all of those questions kind of like list the thing for me that makes me want to improve myself for me, because I would love that there's a person in my life that kind of act this way. And if I'm craving that, it probably means that it should be me, or that I'm seeking for something that I need to find. And I'm thinking also of like all the bad feelings we're feeling sometimes. Because I must say that whenever something is uncomfortable, I like to be in denial. I like to think that things are absolutely not this way until kind of like the bubble pops out and then I have to face things. But I think the feeling that you felt was like shameful, like jealousy or envy or anything like this, are actually signs that it's things that you want. It doesn't mean anything else than how you feel about something, either it's negative or positive, is actually showing you something. The more I grow up and the more I think, I mean, all those feelings that we're having are here for a reason. And I think we're very fast and good at like suppressing them. And when I feel sadness or loneliness or pain, I'm the first one to want to numb it by going out or interacting with the outside. And it's nice to have coping mechanism, but I think when it comes to those like negative feelings, when you feel them in a relationship, to me at least, it's very easy to want to take the first exit and kind of leave. Um, and it all comes down to um, me thinking that I was supposed to make things work. Meaning, if I meet someone, I have to make things work. If I'm in any kind of relationship or situation, I kind of want to make things work. But if they didn't, or if anything was a bit wrong, or there's some kind of mistake, I would be a quitter. Because I would be like, okay, I've consciously decided that this is not the way we're supposed to go. And I would be like, yeah, definitely. If I would have done it my way, I would have not ended up like this, which is not correct. And I think this is really something I'm changing in me. Not that it's a bad thing to leave things that doesn't serve you anymore. I think it's quite the opposite, but there's a difference between feeling anxious, fearing things and leaving them for that reason, and actually trying to heal those part of you and being a bit more grounded and realistic. Which, to be fair, I think both are valid, but I think if you have anxiety or if you are dealing with strong emotions or have a hard time regulating your emotions, on top of like believing that you're a big intuitive person, this can be very harmful and a bit of a hell to leave. So, trying to heal that part by like talking about how you feel and having someone in front of you that is willing to listen is very powerful and very it's a very good feeling actually. And removing the pressure that you have to hide part of who you are as a woman to please anyone i- is how you heal. Feeling seen and heard is one of the most beautiful gift someone can give you. I'm often questioning why we choose who we choose. Because looking back, actually, you can question a bit who you end up being in a relationship with and what they trigger in you and how much they teach you about yourself and how much you can reflect. I mean, I believe that every relationship is a mirror and that any relationship that you enter will show you part of yourself that you are either aware of or not. And I can only talk about like how things has been for me. Like in my case, being a cis woman was like who is into cis men. I really wonder how do we grow and establish ourselves as like independent adults when really the world and like everything that we consume is kind of telling you to conform if you want to find some kind of love. I think love in general is just something that is there. You shouldn't have to work so hard for people to love you. You shouldn't have to do anything actually. And I think one of my greatest pain is like the core belief that I wouldn't be enough for someone if I didn't do all those things and if like all those past kind of like information that I got in my very young brain were there. Like there's so many people and things to compare to based on like all those quizzes I was doing and everything. I felt like I had to be nonchalant and like very that I didn't want it to be the girl who cares. And I think this is what turns you into a pick me very early on. But like it's kind of like nothing scared me more than being like the jealous, clingy, insecure girlfriend. And like, of course, this is who I am. Like, I'm everything. Some days I'm very passionate and strong and loving life, and some days I'm insecure, and some days I don't give a shit, and some days I care so much. Like, there's no perfect recipe. I mean, I'm a woman with a cycle, and hormones are doing things to you that you don't know at 12. But somehow, it's okay to be all those things. It's okay to feel all those things. What matters is like to know how to vocalize them and to be able to talk about it. We're going to feel all those things all the time. And I mean, it's not about overly diving into them and feeling that they're taking over your life. And this can become like um, very hard to deal with for yourself and for your surroundings. But in some way, acknowledging them and knowing that they will pass and knowing that there's other days and being okay with being sad some days and being a bit low or being super high and like really enjoying and being super loving and like there's ups and downs in every single one of us and finding some kind of flow of how to communicate that with your surrounding I think is really important and reassuring for everyone, for yourself to know that you're sane and that you're working on some part of yourself, or like that there's nothing to be scared of. Even saying that I would never admit, like saying that I don't want to be this type of girl. Like, probably my own insecurity of like being scared of being perceived like this at any point would then lead me to make other women feel lonely when they will share those experiences, which is something I really hope and believe I've changed in me. I think the whole point in friendships, romantic relationship, or even with family or people in general is like if you're able to communicate how you feel without blaming the person you have in front of you or making them feel less or smaller than you just because you're feeling those things and you want to hide them, then you're good. Like hiding is way more comforting than admitting that I had flaws. Like even when everyone can tell and it's obvious. I think also it's you can hide it pretty well, but I often think that we're so busy focusing on what we think is wrong with us that we kind of tend to forget that a relationship is kind of like a two-person job anyways. I mean, in a monogamous two people relationship at least, and that no one's really know what they're doing. And I can only wish that we can live the life we aspire to have, like really deeply what resonate with us and what we really want to do, and have someone crazy enough to just go along with, or just or just someone that is just here with you and that is willing to kind of like go along with their own life, and then you can just be side by side. I think this is such a beautiful image, actually. Just to think that you're living your own life and you just have someone you can rely on. Like, why do we expect that someone would be everything for us and just go along with everything that we've planned for ourselves? It's so crazy. I mean, it's beautiful to make plans together and to kind of have a merged vision at some point. But I think it's even more beautiful to think that you have someone that is looking out for you. To be honest, even if it's a friend, I think that's why friendships and platonic relationships are so beautiful sometimes, because we acknowledge from the beginning that everyone is going to have their way of living life and that you're kind of like going to support them, but you're not going to do everything with them. I think it's an obvious start that kind of makes the relationship kind of go longer. Maybe if we have to reflect, if I had to reflect on like relationships, either romantic or friendships, like the one that didn't work out were the one where either on my side or theirs, the goal was to kind of like merge into one person. This is when things kind of don't work actually, because frustration is going to build. You're going to reflect on what you actually wanted to do this whole time, make concession, make compromises. And I'm not talking about the type of compromises where like you're actually like, you know, I'm talking about big compromises. I'm talking about like life plans and life goals and stuff like this. I think it's also beautiful to kind of jump in into whatever and be spontaneous. But I think this idea that you can live alongside with someone else or have someone else in your life while being yourself also comes hand in hand with like, for example, the fact that I had to put a performative act when I enter a relationship was like immediate. That's what I thought before, but I think it's still something that you kind of have, like this kind of um idea that when you enter a relationship you kind of show the best of yourself, and then gradually, yeah, I mean, you can hide at some point. I think it's pretty normal to want to present yourself in some kind of best way. I think it's very human. But this thing also kind of like how much if you perform so much at the beginning, you're going to continuously doing it until you're going to start feeling like you're banning part of yourself. Like, I'm often questioning what I'm giving up in order for this to kind of happen. Like, for the idea for me to be perfect, what am I giving up on? And I think giving into the male gaze and the patriarchy really led us to kind of abandon those part of ourselves. I mean, I want to believe that things has changed since I was 13, and that I got interested in getting to know myself, and that I've let go a bit of like those fucking rules that I've read when I was 13, and that I'm better at my relationship, that they're healthier, that they're honest, and they're completely deprived of any performance, that I've learned to love myself so much that anything that comes to myself is able to see who I am, and that it's easy to accept me. But I think the truth is I've spent my like 20s really seeking that so much that I forgot that really the relationship I should have had was really with myself. And I don't have any regrets when it comes to my 20s and the way I've dated and everything, but I think looking back, I would have chilled the fuck out, and I would have probably also not been that serious. And I think it's easier said than done, but I wish that I could just let myself know that everything is going to be okay, and everything I'm experiencing right now, even though they're painful, are going to be great lessons, and everything that I'm choosing right now are going to be great because they're going to lead me to where I am today. But again, if I go back in time and I tell myself to not stress so much, or to not feel all this pain, or to not be worried, maybe I wouldn't be the person I am today, I guess. But at the same time, it's like so ironic because when I read this book, Conversation on Love, the woman who's writing is saying, if you knew you would meet your soulmate in 6 months, how would you act right now? And I'm going back a bit to the fear and everything, but how this thought kind of ease your mind. And I mean, in my life, I'm a big planner. I like to think ahead of things. I like to know what's going to happen even tomorrow or like in an hour. But this sentence kind of resonate with me with like such ease because it's so true. Like, we're afraid of what's happening now in the present because we're so stuck on the future all the time that somehow we're missing the point completely. And I'm saying that to myself first because I'm completely insane sometimes. Like, I cannot sit with myself enough. I have a super hard time believing that things are going to go well and be fine, even though I've done all this work on myself. I've achieved all those things. It's like, it's almost like I'm lacking gratitude here. This is what this is. This is a lack of gratitude. And I think when you're feeling like, and I think when you're having those moments, especially when you're alone, and then you meet someone that kind of like feels right, that mirrors you and is questioning you about all the things you want to do and everything you want to be, like you go blank because you realize that what did I gave up on by like trying to focus and hyper focus on like this idea that you had to find someone, like by literally worrying that you're not going to find someone. You're liking on all the work and all the love that you have to pour into your own self. And I'm really talking to myself right now. Like, I think that's such a degrading act that we've done as a society to make each other believe that we had to be up there in our head. Because I don't think like rom-coms or like series that I really enjoyed watching when I was 13, I don't know if they're really trying to like condition us to be in pain. And like, I think they just wanted to be like, yeah, might happen. Like, you might have to fuck around and figure it out for yourself, kind of. I also think sometimes we're seeking more of that validation and that image and those romanticized moments more than real connection with people, which is also another thing. I wonder if it was always the case, like back when the internet and like TV and movies and stuff like this didn't exist, like probably through books actually. Back in the day, we were living up to like what, 20? Fuck. Without those 8 past years, I would have not been the person I am today. And I don't think I'm there yet. But really, it's insane actually. That's insane. I think sometimes we just spend so much time worrying that we won't find someone because that would mean that we're unlovable and that we stopped working on the part that could be lovable, which is ourselves. And in so many ways, we put this aside and we only work on us when there's someone watching. Like, I think wanting to work on yourself in a relationship is also maybe that's superhuman, but we kind of want witness that we're doing a good job. I mean, I sometimes wonder about like, you know, when I dress up and when I put makeup on and when I do my nails and everything, I don't really think about guys so much. Or like if I have a crush or something, but I would think about women and like how I'm being perceived and how I can exist in like among us. Of course, it says stuff about like your personality and how you want to be perceived in the world, and I think it's fun. There's a lot of fun you can have with personalizing yourself. But when it comes to like internal work and like how people can perceive you, most of the time we're putting on an act. I wonder if we would work that much on ourselves if we would just confront it to just us, like if we were living alone, which probably wouldn't be viable because we're meant to be living in society. But probably since the beginning of time, frustration existed and like this kind of like hiding who you really are. I mean, I cannot even fathom the, but like, I mean, nowadays, still, it's so hard to be fully who you are and like wanting to, like, being able to admit who you really are, what you really like, what you're really into, and everything. So I cannot even fathom the idea of like how it was before and like how just 10 years from now, how hard it was already to be. Actually, are we going in a better world or like a worst? I really wonder actually. Because there's so many things we couldn't do and couldn't say and couldn't express and couldn't feel properly before. But I think now too, I think we have different level of pain. And a lot of people now are a bit more like, fuck it, we're gonna die, I guess. I think now I perceive and view relationship differently. I'm better at knowing what I like and dislike. Um, I think I realized also that most things were out of my control, and that most of the time, if you want a relationship to work, it's better to focus on what made you fall in love to begin with, to focus on yourself and what you actually want to do. It's okay and normal to change too in a relationship or within yourself. The only advice I would give my younger self or anyone would be give yourself some time and maybe to enjoy the time you have alone. It's easier to say it than to do it. But the free mind you can have when you're actually not being watched by anyone somehow can be also very healing. I would tell my younger self that the grief of a relationship might be necessary to get her to understand herself better. I think in so many ways, the way we go through pain indicates a lot of resilience and bring you clarity on like other things in your life. Can bring you clarity on your friendships and also show you how much you can actually take. There's no recipe, and it's so funny because interactions and social interactions and relationships have been there since the beginning of time. And how funny it is to still discuss it and not knowing the recipe, actually. But if you're able to speak your truth, if you're able to speak your mind, if you find yourself surrounded with people who are willing to work on themselves and to work with you or to listen to you and to see you, I think it's good enough. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of This Could Have Been a Podcast. I'm sitting in my living room talking alone, and it's very new and challenging to do that. And I really wanted to make this episode a bit more slow and for us to be sick a bit together and to sit with words. Nothing is like crazy new or inventive. I just wanted to let it out and to talk to myself and have a place to store it. Because in some ways, there's a lot of things that I write down to soothe my brain, but I forget to go back to it. And I think the small reminder might be a bit more soothing. I wish you an amazing day or evening, and I see you soon. Bye bye.